Greetings. Welcome to Signs and Wonders 101. I'm Jena Taylor, and I have a great story to tell you. You know, I wrote a book called Signs and Wonders 101, and it's 101 stories of miracles that we've seen here at the mission, out in the street, at the gas station, Walmart, even Dillard's. And so I felt like we needed to compile this and really needed to get the word out there, what God's doing. It's amazing. And so it's a daily devotional. And so I'm going to tell you a story about day 21 and in this book. So I at one time had a lively discussion with a dear friend whom I adore, but whose political persuasion is different from mine. And his take on things, his view, was that the government needed to take care of the poor. And that's what the government needed to do. And so that's who was responsible, is the government, to do that. And I said, well, you know, I was raised to believe it was actually the church that was supposed to help the poor, that we're supposed to be the ones that reach out and help, either through our church, you know, that's, you give to the church, the church then has a benevolence type situation. And that's how that worked. But I've learned over the years, there's actually a third option, which I love third options, but this was an unusual third option in which, what if it were called upon by the Lord for each of us to be a part? What if this is a higher way that each of us personally are responsible for the little ones? And so doing a word study in the Bible and looking that up about the needy, the poor, the stranger, the homeless, I discovered that is his plan, and that we are to help them, and we are to step out and reach out for them. And it says, he who gives to the poor lends to the Lord, and he shall repay with interest. And so that has become my motto. And in this particular principle, I have found that concept of being personally responsible, each of us, to give and help the poor out of our own means. And so I'll give you an example. This is just one example that I can give you. One day I was driving and I had to get gas, so I stopped. I got the pump, we're doing the nozzle, I'm waiting, and a little girl comes up, young girl, drives up in one of those boats, you know, those huge sedans where you could put a double bed in the trunk. It's so big. But and so she went in, stopped the car, she went in, and I assumed paid for some gas and came back out. And so she's pumping on her side, I'm pumping on my side, and her pump went off, like almost, well, quickly, within a minute. And I said, oh, there's something wrong with your pump, and do you need some help? And she said, no, that's all the money, that's all the cash I had. I just didn't want to run out of gas, and so I needed to put what I could in there. And so I said, well, would you mind if I put a little gas in your tank, get you a little further down the road? And she said, well, you know, you could tell she didn't trust me or anything. And finally I said, just a little, just let me put a little bit. So she said yes, and I put my debit card in. Now here's the deal, that debit card is used only for helping someone in a jam. That's all it's for. That the bank account it's attached to, that's all that money's for. That money is my way to carry out God's edict that we should help the poor. Blessed is he who gives to the poor. And so I just turned on the gas tank, and then to distract her, I just asked questions, how, darling little baby, you know, or toddler in the back seat, and what do you do? And she said, well, my sister and I share an apartment, and I keep the kids, and I am home in the day while she's working, and then tonight I go the night shift and she keeps the kids, and it just has to be that way. And I said, you know, do you think I could pray for you for a better job? And that God would give you a better job? And she went, well, you know, and she could tell she didn't want to have anything to do with this. And I said, just, you know, let me pray for you real quick. She goes, okay. So we held hands by the gas tank, and we bowed our heads and just began to pray God's blessing, that Holy Spirit would come and bring for her an answer to her dilemma and her questions, and that he would begin to just wash over her, that he would provide a good job for her, a job with benefits that would make things easier than they were at this point, that God had a plan for her, plans to prosper her, not to make her fail, plans for a future and a hope. And that therefore, if she were to turn to him and pray to him, he would turn to her and he would hear her prayer. Well, she began to cry. And she cried, and she cried, and she cried. And I felt so bad, because it is that human dilemma of being so frustrated and things just not working. And it's really tough. And so that's why, for me, this debit card is so important, because everywhere you go, there's someone that needs help. And I am not depending on my government to do that. And I'm not depending entirely on my church. Now, am I saying don't pay your taxes? No. Am I saying don't pay your tithe to the church? No. This is extra. This is the extra. And this gift above the tithe, then I use in this way to help anyone that is in need, anywhere, anyhow. And so she's, when she dried her tears, and she said, "Why are you doing this?" And I said, "Because, honey, there was a day where I was where you are, and I had no hope, and I had no money, and someone filled up my tank. And so I'm just paying it forward, and I just want to bless you in that way." And we hugged, and she left. And, the fact is, was I, a big deal in her bucket? No, I was barely a drop in her bucket, but Holy Spirit was a big deal in her bucket. And that he would have access to her and love on her and brood over her during this prayer, and really just begin to wash away all the frustration that she could feel. And so I encourage you to do the same thing. I encourage you to be on the lookout for people, little ones, that need a help, that need just that moment, just whatever. I mean, there are people, and I have done it too, there are people that actually have paid for the groceries for the person that just rang up, and there's opportunities everywhere, and it's a big blessing, and it blesses the Lord when we do these things. It is a delight to him. He really loves the poor. And if you just do a word study in the Bible on the word poor and stranger and needy and homeless, it'll really rock your socks, I'm telling you. So anyway, Jena Taylor, I hope that blesses you. Bye.